Hello guys, it's Pain Explains. Today I'm going to be doing if Pain could actually beat the raikage. It's a misconception that Pain slaps the raikage, and it's also some misconceptions that the raikage slaps Pain. No difficulty. I feel like this versus battle is pretty interesting if you really go look at it, because you can argue both sides. You can argue Pain wins, or you can argue the raikage wins. Just depends on your interpretation of how you perceive the Naruto series and some of the non factors that aren't necessarily in the main canon of Naruto, but that are in the narrative of Naruto, if that makes sense. Um Also, it's just blatant feats for the Raikage. For Pain, it's mostly narrative arguments and things of that nature. So we can go into like the Raikage, because I think the Raikage scaling and arguments are a lot easier to comprehend and argue than what Pain's arguments for his narrative. So number one, we can go into the Raikage's feats. Number one, we know the Raikage was known as the fastest shinobi of his time. But, other than the yellow flash of Konoha, he was known as the fastest ninja after Minato died. The Raikage is no slouch. We know he's able to beat people like MS Sasuke, who should be stronger than Curse Mark Sasuke, who's able to defeat Akatsuki members like Deidara. So this man, right, like the Raikage, is already stronger than most Akatsuki members, and then the Raikage is even able to throw hands and swap speed with KCM1 Naruto. KCM1 Naruto is a very fast character in the data book. You can argue Minato is fast. The Raikage was as fast as Minato in the Third Great Ninja War, and Naruto in this fight is consistently being compared to the Yellow Flash, and the Raikage was keeping up with Naruto almost this whole fight. So the Raikage is able to keep up with fighters like Naruto who have a complete controlled not complete, but a controlled Biju mode at this time. And a lot of people try to say KCM1 is above the Six Tails, which is 100% correct. The KCM1 should be above the Six Tails, who is relative to Pain. That would be one of the main arguments you would come across for the Raikage beating Pain. We can go into a couple other arguments. It's a couple arguments to counter this with Pain, but we're just going over the arguments for the Raikage. We can go into this other chain scaling. Raikage is stronger than KCM or fast as KCM with Naruto, who's over Sage Mode Naruto. I'm in Sage Mode Naruto scales to the Pains, which is an argument you'll see a lot. But the thing is, Pain was fatigued when he fought Sage Mode Naruto. Same with the Six Tails. That's how you would simply counter this. That would be the arguments for the Raikage winning. And when people would go into this, they would say, well, how strong is Pain without fatigueness? And some people would never be able to prove Pain would be stronger than the Raikage with his feats. But we can go into Pain's scaling and why I personally think Pain wins in the context of Naruto. We know Pain, like the weekly manga, it's like it's stated Pain is the strongest Akatsuki member. Uito power-wise wasn't really introduced, but people like Kasame, Itachi, and people like Sekitachi, of course, and Conan, and people like that, they are all introduced in the series. So they're saying Pain is stronger than people like Sekitachi at the time and Kasame. And Kasame scales to Killer Bee, who's stronger than the Raikage very easily, since the Killer Bee base was keeping up with the version 1 Raikage. Then he has his whole Tail Beast cloak, which is obviously would be above the Raikage's V2 cloak, because we know like Six Tails, I believe it was like a Six Tails Killer Bee, and like in version 1 was keeping up with the V1 Raikage, so like with their lariats, so they were pretty relative there. And then he gets the version 2 cloak, which we would have a full Eight Tails version of that, meaning he would be above the Raikage. And also, Killer Bee, as I said in base, was fucking swapping hands with the version 1 Raikage, so you would have to be claiming the Raikage's version 2 cloak is stronger than a full version 2 Eight Tails mode, which I think is a bit silly to say. I don't think that's necessarily true. So I think that's very weird. So obviously this is in the weekly manga, not the Viz manga, so this is arguably no, you can't argue this isn't canon, but I think it would make a lot of sense since Pain's narrative is being the leader of the Akatsuki, this god. Like in the data book, it's actually stated like Pain is like this god, he's undefeatable. And like, and obviously, Pain, that would like that kind of implies Pain is like one of the strongest members if they like believe he's unbeatable when he's at full power, and also in the weekly manga, what is saying he's the strongest Akatsuki member, which would pretty much put him above any character at that time, making when the data bug is saying he's unbeatable, being consistent in the narrative. Then we have people like Zetsu. Zetsu completely says, "Yeah, I cannot believe Obito, you made plans or even the possibility of Nagata losing to Naruto." So, and a possibility is something that may just happen. So, any like scenario of any fighter Zetsu has seen that would be alive would be taking into this context. So he cannot imagine people like the Raikage, Killer Bee, like if they all jump Pain at full power, like because Pain Zetsu would know Pain's full power since he's been watching everybody. Zetsu knows how strong everybody is. He does not think those people can even touch Pain at his full power, or like he can't imagine him losing. So all of these people, he cannot see Pain losing to at full power. That means he thinks Pain is massively stronger than all these fighters, and he would have a basis to say that since he's knowledgeable in each fighter of them because he has seen everyone fight. So Zetsu would be one of the most knowledgeable people to say this. That's why we would take his statements at face value. Then you have even Obito saying if if Sasuke has surpassed Nagato, that like I don't like it would be no point because we would not be able to control him. Kind of implying like Pain may be able to like I'm not gonna say Pain can stand up to Nobito, but like the statement kind of implies it. He says yeah this guy would just be too strong. I wouldn't be able like to even like it would be no point. It would be kind of a toughie for us. We wouldn't be able to control him. That can just imply like Pain would be really strong and like Obito and Pain may be relative. Or Obito might be bluffing, but I don't think any reasoning for that. So I would say like, and it makes a ton of sense for Pain to be this strong. And then and then I already said Zetsu foreseeing the possibility of Nagata losing. That's like many of the arguments for Pain winning, which are really strong. And I think in the context of Naruto, it would make a ton of sense for all these statements. Um, and a lot of people will try to argue like Pain has a whole bunch of anti-feats of saying, well, he's relative to the Six Tails. If they remember the Six Tails is like below KCM1, you can accept it or you can argue against it. That's also a contentious topic. But if you hypothetically agree to it, Pain was fatigued. It stated multiple times in the Pain arc. Like it stated like he lost power by Konan. He like did the fought the whole Leaf Village, did the whole arm when he pushed that fatigued him. So Pain was fatigued when he fought KCM1 Naruto. So the Six Tails Naruto, and full power Pain was zero fatigue. Would this be where these statements are saying? Unless they would be able to prove each narrative argument for Pain is completely wrong, which I think would be a little silly to say Pain's just like this fodder character that's weaker than people like Kasame, people like that. I think that's like kind of dumb. It's silly, as I said. So Pain, this guy, was just like super strong, like through the narrative. He doesn't really have that many feats because he kind of got power clipped. But all of these statements in the narrative of Naruto heavily supports Pain being this strong, as I said. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And make sure to like, subscribe, and share the video. And until next time.
Came up from the bottom, now I'm up though, ayy. Stuck up at the trenches, now I'm on my lit shit. Give me serious, one punch, hold on. What the fuck, ayy? Pass up the race, gotta show 'em I'm playing when I ain't above the stakes. High like a satellite, we can get a scrapping right there. With the team, we can run up the fade. Sold out a young lady, master one day flex with a team, they ain't love what I say. And when I'm showing up, knowing as cold as it's guaranteed, I'ma go fuck up the game. Kage, running from the bottom to the top place. Young little legend from the village to my way. Now they trying to copy like a catcher doing cosplay. Putting into work, got me feeling like Yahweh. Y'all waiting for the Messiah, I'm with the God play. Y'all better stop, y'all better watch. Came through flooded, come my drip, Hokage,